Deadline day in the Florida ballot battle. Machine recount results due about 4 hours from now while the lawsuits continue to pour in. Welcome back to America's Newsroom. I'm Sandra Smith. Hour 3 begins now.
Good to be with you today.
Good morning, John.
I'm John Scott in for Bill Hemmer. Senator Bill Nelson went into the recount 12,000 votes behind his Republican challenger Rick Scott. President Trump blasting the whole process, pushing for the removal of Broward County election supervisor Brenda Snipes, writing this: "You look at her past, she's a disaster. I won Florida, and you remember that area, Broward, didn't come in." Peter Dunbar, counsel to the Republican Party in Florida, on America's Newsroom earlier.
But if you look at the ballots that are at issue, and I do think it's important that all the ballots be counted, that the results might modify in small numbers, but there are not enough at issue to make a change in either of those two races.
Team coverage now. Brett Baer joins us. But first, we want to check in with Peter Ducey in Lauderhill, Florida. Peter, what's the latest?
John, the latest is that the recount is substantially light. Substantial number of ballots are missing from the second count. The official there, the superintendent of elections, says that they believe that machines just missed them, and they think they've identified the crate that the ballots are in. But that supervisor of elections says it is unlikely that Palm Beach County will make the 3 p.m. deadline to have everything counted. That deadline has looked to be out of reach for Palm Beach, which is why it was surprising that vote counting rooms there were quiet for most of yesterday. We now know officials sent ballot counters home to sleep and eat. There has also been a lot of action in a courtroom today where a federal judge, Mark Walker, is trying to give Floridians 2 more days to fix their ballots if they were told late that the signature on the ballot did not match the signature on their files. The judge ruled thousands of ballots were tossed unconstitutionally. Now, Senator Bill Nelson's lawyer, Mark Elias, says, breaking big victory in our Florida signature mismatch lawsuit. Federal court extends deadline for voters to cure their rejected ballots until Saturday at 5 p.m. Per court, disenfranchisement of approximately 5,000 votes based on signature mismatch is a substantial burden. But the Rick Scott team is fighting back. A spokesperson for the Republicans says, "We are immediately appealing this baseless decision, and we are confident we will prevail in the 11th Circuit." Let's be clear. Bill Nelson's high-priced Washington lawyers went to court to argue against a process that they previously argued for. So here at the canvassing board, things are quiet. They are in a recess, but the room is filled with observers, lawyers for both sides, spokespeople for both sides, just waiting to see what happens 4 hours from right now at that mandated deadline. John?
Yeah, taking a recess, and they've got a big deadline ahead. That's interesting. Peter Ducey, thank you.
For more on all this, let's bring in Brett Baer, anchor of Special Report. So we are under 4 hours now till that deadline. What do you think happens here, Brett?
Well, I think that you're likely to see these court hearings continue, Sandra, and I think that you're going to see these appeals, the one that Peter just mentioned. Remember that some of these ballots that they're talking about came in after Election Day, absentee ballots that came in the 7th and the 8th.
Fired, telling the Daily Caller, "You look at her past, she's a disaster. I won Florida, and you remember that area, Broward, didn't come in. You can only put in so many votes, although she may change that system." We'll likely hear more of that as well as this continues the next few hours.
Yeah, there's been no definitive evidence of fraud. There was rule breaking in that she didn't tell the campaigns how many votes total were being dealt with in Broward at the beginning, and that is, according to the rules, not accurate. You have to do that. So she is, the real question is, at the end of this process, what is the final number that they get to? And I think we're going to find out some of that today, but probably not until the 20th will this all wrap up.
Meanwhile, new GOP House leadership. Can we talk a bit about that? Kevin McCarthy, the party leader, elected minority leader over Jim Jordan. How does this change things, Brett?
It doesn't really. It was a message. Jordan was hoping to get pull the upset. He didn't. It was 159 to 43. But it does show that McCarthy was expected to win and did win. He's got to cobble together, though, that Freedom Caucus side of the caucus to be able to stand together and be a block vote on some of the things that Democrats are going to put forward. We'll see how much negotiation is done between Democrats and Republicans, not only in the House, but with the Senate and the administration once the new Congress comes in January.
What do you think that looks like? I mean, you hear from the president saying he's willing to work with Democrats, and we had a Democrat on the program earlier that says, you know, Democrats are willing to work with Republicans here, but we're all left wondering what exactly that looks like after the last 2 years. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. You know, yesterday was an important moment from the president's point of view when he endorsed this bipartisan legislation for prison reform and sentencing reform. That's been bounced around on Capitol Hill for quite some time. The president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has really pushed that, and having the president sign on was kind of a hat tip to, I'm ready for some bipartisan things. There's a limit to that, however, and I think it also is hinging on whether Democrats go full bore into investigations right off the bat before trying to get legislation that they think is bipartisan through.
Well, here is new leader McCarthy on working across the aisle with Democrats in the new Congress. Listen.
We will work with anybody across that aisle if they are there to work to move America forward. But let me be very clear. If their agenda is simply investigations, impeachment, and not focused on the hardworking American public, we'll be there to defend the American public.
So we'll see, and we're left wondering who the leader of the Democrats is going to be in the House. I mean, who is Speaker Pelosi? Is that coming to fruition, do you think, based on what you're hearing now, 17 Democrats saying that they're vowing to vote against her and stop this?
She's very confident, Sandra, but it's not a done deal yet. There are enough Democrats there that could cause real problems in that vote. And you know, the president was, I think, kind of joking in the tweet, but said if she has problems, maybe Republicans will vote for her, too. They could, actually. Don't usually. I think she's, you know, it's going to be tight with all of the opposition that she's had. But knowing Nancy Pelosi and how she whips votes, there'll be negotiations that happen that get her the gavel again, one expects. How she cobbles together that caucus and what she, you know, forces down the throat of the House side as far as legislation goes, and whether she can actually get Republicans on board, I think is the real question. If you look at infrastructure, if you look at immigration, seems like a long shot, but there are some things in the middle. And one other thing in the background, December 7th, before the new Congress is seated, you have a government shutdown possibility. So Congress has to get in gear for that.
We're all going to have to gear up for that, potentially. Brett, by the way, that was a live picture of Nancy Pelosi. She is holding a press conference right now. Likely a lot of conversation in that room about her return to the speakership. So we'll listen in on that and get you the news out of there as it comes in. Brett Baer, we'll see you tonight, 6 p.m. special report. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.
And a quick programming note, by the way, President Donald Trump will be sitting down with our very own Chris Wallace in an exclusive interview this weekend on Fox News Sunday. It marks Chris Wallace's first interview with President Trump since he took office, and only the second time the president has sat down for a Sunday show interview. So set your calendar.
That's history. You'll want to catch that. Another alert now. Devastating fires blamed for at least 59 deaths in California. The number is rising again after a third victim was found in the Woolsey fire in Malibu, while the Camp Fire in northern Butte County has taken the lives of at least 56 people. Many more still missing in and around the town of Paradise, which was absolutely leveled. Governor Jerry Brown was there.
This is so devastating that I don't really have the words to describe it. It looks like a war zone. It is. It's the devastation that only fires of this kind could bring about. Nobody's really expecting it, but it happens.
Jeff Paul is live for us in Malibu right now. Jeff?
Yeah, John, the winds here in Southern California are really starting to die down, and that is allowing crews to start to return to these neighborhoods and get them back to normal. But for some families, like this one right here in Malibu, you could tell they've lost everything. Really only can make out a few things in here. There's like a hot water tank over here, a washer, dryer, and as we take a walk over here, a few bikes in there burned. And this was a car. You can kind of tell from the frame, and down below here, this was a bicycle. But further north, the damage is from the campfire, much more devastating. That's where more than 10,000 structures were destroyed in that fire that it's burned about 80 miles north of Sacramento. The death toll there now rising to 56, and authorities believe that could get even higher with more than 100 people still missing. The folks, though, who did manage to escape that fire and only to lose their homes say that their future right now looks uncertain.
I feel very fortunate to have a van. I look at other people at the car and kids. I feel like I'm driving around in a hotel.
I posted on Facebook, if anybody has a garage that we can stay in for 30 days. And my girlfriend asked me, well, what do we do after 30 days? I said, I don't know. That's what the 30 days is, to figure out what we do after the 30 days.
Now back down south here in Los Angeles County, Ventura County, those winds are dying down, and that's allowing fire crews to get more containment. The containment of the Woolsey fire now at 57%. And more crews are starting to show up in neighborhoods to try to get these people back to normal in some sort of fashion. They are lifting some of the evacuation orders, but in neighborhoods like this one here in Malibu, where you have home after home burned to the ground, that return to normalcy is going to take much longer. John?
Yeah, hard to believe it's hitting places like Malibu. Jeff Paul. Jeff, thank you.
Senate Republicans block a bill to protect the Mueller investigation, saying the president has no plans to fire the special counsel. Now, one GOP lawmaker is threatening to vote against judicial nominations. Senator John Thune joins us a bit later to talk about that and the Senate leadership elections.
Plus, some Democrats hope to sink Nancy Pelosi's bid to become House Speaker once again. Do they have the votes? Congresswoman Debbie Dingell is up next on the brewing battle in the House.
That Ms. Pelosi will be the Speaker, but not only that, that we'll draw a number of votes and be very strong and united when we go to the floor of the House.
News alert, and going on live in Washington right now, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi talking to reporters at her weekly news conference. They always happen on Thursdays. Pelosi's looking to become the next House Speaker, but right now she's facing a challenge from some members of her own party. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell is running for DPCC co-chair, and she joins us now. There is some opposition to Nancy Pelosi and her attempt to return as Speaker. Is there enough to deny her the gavel, Congresswoman?
Good morning. Look, I think that we're going to have some very serious, tough discussions in our caucus about how we talk about transition, how we build a bench, how we ensure that all the caucus members feel like they're being heard and have an opportunity to take leadership on the issues that matter the most to them, and that it's inclusive. But I do believe at the end of the day that we will probably see the same three that are at the top of our leadership reelected in January, with a transition plan at least being recognized for the coming years.
You're not saying whether you support her, are you?
Look, I'm going to vote for her. I think we've got to look like we've got our acts together right now. A part of my discussion is that how do we make sure that we've got this really energetic, passionate class. It's not a monolithic class, but they care deeply and they want their voices heard. And we've got to make sure that we have got processes in place in the caucus that their voices are heard and that they are one of the voices that's impacting what the agenda is going to be for Democrats as we go into the next session.
Sheila Jackson Lee, the Democrat from Texas, had some thoughts about the possible return of Nancy Pelosi to the Speaker's chair. Let me play this for you.
This is a democracy, even inside the caucus, and the viewpoints of individuals who have expressed their view of a different perspective, I'm willing to hear. At the same time, I think that it is very important for those of us who have been here, who've seen a majority and seen a minority, to focus not on personality but effectiveness.
Focus not on personality but effectiveness. By all accounts, Nancy Pelosi is very effective as a vote counter.
Well, I think Sheila said it very well. And we do have to make sure that we're listening to everybody. And we've got to have really thorough, intense discussions. And people have intense feelings. But in the end, we have to reelect this whole class that got elected this time. But more importantly, we're responsible to the voters that elected them. And I think people are tired of the partisan bickering. They want to see us get things done. They want to see us do things about pre-existing conditions. They want to see us do something about fixing our broken roads and our infrastructure system. And I think we've got a responsibility to figure out how we're going to work together to start to address a myriad of issues that are bothering not Republicans, not Democrats, but Americans.
Nancy Pelosi just said in this news conference that we're carrying live on screen, she just said that she does expect to be reelected. If that is the case, she's going to have a difficult job, more difficult than the last time when she was serving as Speaker from 2007 to 2011. You've got a narrow Democratic majority, and it only takes a few to derail the train, right?
So, but that's how you build a consensus. That's how you start. You bring everybody into the room and find that common ground. She got the Affordable Care Bill passed, which now, while all the Republicans were demonizing it for a while, she got that bill through. And President Obama says that because people were worried about pre-existing conditions. They were worried that their children were being kicked off plans, that being a woman was a pre-existing condition. There were a myriad of issues that led us to that. Now we got to fix it. One, we got to protect pre-existing conditions. We've got to make sure people can afford their medicine. We've got escalating premiums, higher deductibles. We've got to pull it together. And she's someone with the skills and the ability to bring a disparate group of people together, find their common ground, and build the coalition it's going to take to get something done.
She's also someone that Republicans hope wins because they like to run against her. What does that say to you?
You know, I say that each district is different, and that that the members of Congress that are running as themselves. They're running on their agenda and what they're going to deliver, and we have to help every member deliver to the people of their district, and not just the people of their district, but deliver for the American people.
Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Democrat of Michigan. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Good luck in the session coming up.
Thanks. Good being with you. Thank you.
Defense Secretary Mattis visiting troops near the southern border in Texas. The troops there offering support to Border Patrol right now. But what is the long-term military mission there? Plus, President Trump firing off a series of tweets today on the Mueller probe. What he is saying now about the Russia investigation. Snowy morning in Washington.
Slapping sanctions on 17 Saudi Arabian officials, including a senior Saudi and 16 others allegedly involved in the murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi was killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last month.
President Trump slamming the Russia investigation again today, calling it a total mess on Twitter this morning. John Roberts live at the White House with more. There's that snow. John, good morning.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful here? It's like a winter wonderland, and it's only November the 15th. You know, the president might be on the verge, even on the eve, of submitting written answers to Robert Mueller as part of his investigation. But at the same time, the president venting his frustration with the whole thing, taking to Twitter this morning for some particularly vitriolic tweets. The president writing, "The inner workings of the Mueller investigation are a total mess. They have found no collusion and have gone absolutely nuts. They are screaming and shouting at people, horribly threatening them to come up with the answers they want. They are a disgrace to our nation and don't care how many lives they ruin." The president also tweeting, "Universities will someday study what highly conflicted and not Senate-approved Bob Mueller and his gang of Democrat thugs have done to destroy people. Why is he protecting crooked Hillary, Comey, McCabe, Lisa Page, and her lover Peter Strzok, and all of his friends on the other side?" The president and his attorneys are making a final decision in the next 24 to 48 hours as to whether or not they will give Robert Mueller the written answers to questions that he is looking for and what answers they might give to him. I'm told that they are positively inclined to do it. They could do it as soon as tomorrow. But as anything happens around here at the White House, or as with anything that happens around here at the White House, Sandra, subject to change.
John, of course. And what more do we know about the top White House aide that Melania called out?
Yeah, her name is Mira Ricardel. She was the chief of staff to the National Security Council. She was a trusted aide of National Security Advisor John Bolton, but she ran afoul of the First Lady's staff, and I'm told just about everybody else in the West Wing. So she has now been relieved of her duties at the National Security Council, but she is being parked elsewhere in the administration. We don't yet know where she is going to land. Her portfolio is going to be picked up by Rear Admiral Doug Fears, who is currently the Homeland Security Advisor in the NSC. So he'll be wearing two hats for a while, and a lovely hat that he has as well. And while the president told the Daily Caller in an interview that he has not yet made a decision whether to replace DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, the president is considering some other candidates, Fox News is told. Names that have been floated include the current TSA administrator, David Pekoski, who, like Fears, is a former Coast Guard, as well as the former Homeland Security Advisor, Tom Bossert. Remember him? He was here at the White House for a long period of time and then was removed in the transition between H.R. McMaster and John Bolton. Some of the other things that are being talked about, potentially removing Wilbur Ross from the Commerce Department as secretary. One of the names that has been floated to possibly replace him, if there were to be a change made, is the Small Business Administrator Linda McMahon. The president is really a huge fan of hers. James Mattis, I'm told, is likely going to be staying where he is. And the president is in no hurry, Sandra, to replace Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. He's got Matt Whitaker in there. He can leave him in for 200 days under the statute, and he is not planning on getting rid of him at any time soon. Sandra?
And Robert, stay warm out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, is out on bail and speaking out as well. What the frequent critic of President Trump is saying about his arrest on domestic violence charges.
Plus, Senate Republicans blocking a bill to protect special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, saying it is not necessary. Senator John Thune will be here live to weigh in on that and more next.
This has been going on for quite a long period of time, and now you even see Chuck Schumer threatening a shutdown of the government over this. This isn't what the American people want. So I have great confidence that this investigation will come to a conclusion.
A Fox News alert now on legal troubles for Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for porn actress Stormy Daniels, who is suing President Trump over an alleged affair. He was arrested on domestic violence charges in California.
I have never struck a woman. I never will strike a woman. I have been an advocate for women's rights my entire career, and I'm going to continue to be an advocate. I am not going to be intimidated from stopping what I am doing.
Jonathan Hunt is live in Los Angeles with more on all of this. Jonathan?
John Avenatti, known for his sharp suits and sharp elbows, made that sharp statement you just heard as he left court last night. Released from police custody on $50,000 bail, he dismissed the allegations as an attempt to besmirch his reputation and repeatedly denied abusing anyone, referencing his two daughters and saying this.
I would never disrespect them by touching a woman inappropriately or striking a woman. I am looking forward to a full investigation, at which point I am confident that I will be fully exonerated. I also want to thank everyone for their support that has reached out. You know my character, you know me as a man, and I appreciate it.
The incident allegedly happened at Avenatti's home here in L.A., and police say there were visible injuries to the alleged victim. That person has not been publicly identified. Avenatti's estranged wife said she was not involved, and his first wife defended him in a tweet, saying he has, quote, never been abusive and, quote, is a good man. Avenatti, of course, became famous representing Daniels, the porn actress who alleges she had an affair with Donald Trump in 2006 and has sued to invalidate the confidentiality agreement she signed just before the 2016 presidential election. That prevents her discussing it. Daniels issued a statement today saying she will reserve judgment regarding what she termed serious and troubling allegations against Avenatti, adding in the statement, quote, I do not condone violence against women, and if these allegations prove true, I will be seeking new representation. Avenatti, meantime, John, is due back in court December 5th. John? Not exactly a hearty embrace from his most high-profile client. No, far from it. Jonathan Hunt, thank you.
Sure. President Trump is not going to fire Mueller. Mueller is going to be allowed to do his job, and we need conservative judges on the bench, as many as we can, as often as we can get them. I don't know what Senator Grassley is going to do. He's been a great chairman of the committee. If I'm chairman next year, we're going to do judges, and more judges. And at the end of the day, I am convinced that Mr. Mueller will be allowed to do his job.
Senator Lindsey Graham on Hannity last night saying Robert Mueller's job is not in jeopardy. This after the Senate blocked a bill to protect the special counsel. Senator John Thune is chairman of the Senate Republican Conference, and he joins us now. Senator Thune, thank you for being here this morning. Do you share the confidence of your colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham?
I think that's about right. I don't think there's been any indication from the president that he intends to fire Robert Mueller. We all agree that the investigation needs to be completed, but that it needs to get wrapped up. That should happen soon. They've been at it for a long time. But I don't think that concern about the president intending to fire Mueller is something that's shared up here on Capitol Hill. And so I think Senator Graham had it about right.
Your colleague, outgoing Senator Jeff Flake, says otherwise. He would not vote to confirm any judicial nominees unless Republican leaders allow a vote on a bill that would protect Mueller from being fired by the president. We had Senator John Barrasso on the program earlier this morning to react to that. He said this.
This seems to be his go-to play right now, threatening judges. You know, he did it this past summer on tariffs and trade. Now he's doing it in terms of the issue of the special counsel. There is no threat to the special counsel. We are going to get these judges confirmed.
Do you share that sentiment, Senator Thune?
I do. I just believe, at least right now, what it looks like to me, Sandra, is this effort has a lot more to do with politics than it does with substance. I don't think there's the substance that suggests this is a step that Congress ought to take. But I think there are a lot of politics at work here. And I think that right now we need to, as was stated earlier, in the time that we have remaining in this Congress, continue to process judges, keep that pipeline filled. And we have every intention of doing that here in the United States Senate.
Meanwhile, congratulations to you, elected to serve as a Republican majority whip. That happening yesterday. As we know, Mitch McConnell, reelected leader. So that has all been established. Now the big question becomes, how do you push through the White House agenda with Democrats now controlling the House? What's the strategy?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think we're going to have to be very strategic. And I think a lot of it, that question really gets answered more than anywhere else, Sandra, by the House of Representatives. And when they have their leadership elections, and assuming they elect Nancy Pelosi the Speaker, I think we'll find out right away whether or not she and her caucus intend to legislate, in other words, work with us in a constructive way to build on all the progress that we've made the last couple of years, or whether they intend to investigate and spend all their time, going after, attacking, and harassing the president. I think that's the question that's really before the House right now, and I think we'll get an answer to that before too long. I would hope that they choose to work with us, the Republican majority here in the United States Senate, with the president on an agenda that can be good for the American people. I think the American people want to see us get results, but I think that it's really up to them, and that decision right now I think is in their hands, because I think there's plenty of people here in the Senate, and the president is willing to reach out and to work with Democrats in the House on issues that are good for jobs, good for growth, good for our economy, and good for people's standard of living here in this country.
Newly elected House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was asked that same question, and here's how he responded.
We took a beating inside the suburban areas. We're going to have to work harder. I think our message is going to have to be clearer. Our ideas are going to have to be stronger. We realize that, and we will work towards that effort.
Our message is going to have to be clear. We're going to have to be stronger. Finally, Senator, what is the message as now leadership is in place and you've got a big job to do?
Well, look, I think the message very plainly to the American people is this is a Congress and an administration that has gotten results. We've got the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Wages are growing at the fastest rate in 10 years. Median income was at an all-time high last year. We've made a lot of headway, and it's a result of a lot of the policies that we've worked together on. The question now is, again, are we going to build on that foundation, or we can continue to move forward on an agenda and sharpen that message so that the American people understand that we're here to make their lives better, to give them a better future, their children a better future, and to improve their personal economy and their quality of life. And I think those are the message that we've got to deliver to the American people is that's what we're here to do. We hope we'll have a partner with Democrats in the House. That remains to be seen. And I think we'll find out right away whether or not they intend to legislate or whether they intend to investigate. And I hope that it's the former.
Well, the country will be watching. Senator John Thune, thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.
Migrants arriving in Tijuana, Mexico at the U.S. border with more on the way as Defense Secretary Jim Mattis visited troops in South Texas yesterday, telling them the strategic goal of their mission is still to be determined. Jennifer Griffin live from the Pentagon with more. How many troops exactly are on the border right now, Jennifer?
Well, John, we just spoke to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Patrick Shanahan, here at the Pentagon, and he said that the number of troops to the border has peaked at about 5,900. Yesterday, as you mentioned, Defense Secretary Mattis traveled with DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen to the border despite persistent rumors that President Trump plans to fire her. Mattis said the number of troops at the border could go as high as 7,000, adding he still does not anticipate military personnel coming into direct contact with migrants. That's why most are not armed and are laying concertina wire for the most part. Mattis said having soldiers deploy on short notice has its benefits.
These are all the same things we would do if we were deploying anywhere in the world. We're deployed, we're living out of tents. He said this is actually very good training because they're rehearsing everything they would do in a deployment elsewhere in the world.
The Pentagon won't say how much this deployment will cost. Unlike the past, DHS will not be paying for it. The Pentagon will. Early estimates point to a $200 million bill. John?
So how part of the cost calculation involves how long it's going to last. Any ideas?
Well, Mattis was asked this very question by a soldier yesterday. Some military commanders say a few of the troops could start to leave the border next week, but Mattis would not tip his hand.
What are the short-term and long-term plans for this operation, sir?
Longer term, it's somewhat to be determined because if we were in war right now, you'd be asking the same question, wouldn't you?
The orders that Mattis signed expire on December 15th, but could always be extended, John.
All right, Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon for us. Jennifer, thanks.
Maryland's Attorney General going to court to block Matthew Whitaker's appointment as acting Attorney General. What this means for the president.
Also, we are awaiting the president and the First Lady. They are about to leave the White House to head for the Marine Barracks. We will go there live when that happens.
Whitaker has expressed hostility toward this probe. He's suggested ways to diminish it, to starve it of funding, for example. Why in the world we would be so sanguine about this and allow it to happen just is beyond me. So I would think that we would, exercise a little institutional pride here and perform our oversight responsibilities.
That was Senator Jeff Flake just moments ago on the appointment of Matthew Whitaker to be acting Attorney General. This as the state of Maryland files suit challenging Whitaker's appointment. Let's discuss it with Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Professor, it's good to have you on this morning. The state of Maryland argues, among other things, that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein should have been chosen to succeed Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. Do they have a case?
No, I can't imagine a worse choice than Rosenstein. Rosenstein is going to be the main witness in this case. He's the guy who, according to Woodward, gave the president the idea to fire Comey, and he wrote the memo authorizing the firing of Comey. He shouldn't be in this case. He should be recused. The idea of making him the acting attorney general would be absurd. I think that presidents have the right to fill vacancies temporarily. You don't want presidents to immediately, the day somebody resigns or is fired, to create a permanent substitution. You want the president to think about it. Now, if the president uses interim appointments as a subterfuge not to get confirmation, keeps on the interim person for weeks or months at a time, then a constitutional issue emerges. But if it's a short-term, temporary appointment, that's happened since the beginning of the Republic. Presidents have always made interim appointments before they've made permanent appointments. The other question that Senator Flake raises is a good one. Is Whitaker the right person for the job? And I think reasonable people could disagree with that, and I think Flake has some important points. But that's very different from the constitutional point as to whether the president has the authority to do it.
Let me give you the take of Chuck Schumer, the minority leader of Democrats in the U.S. Senate. He writes, Mr. Whitaker has not been subjected to the scrutiny that the Constitution requires to ensure that he has the character, integrity, and ability to fulfill the grave responsibilities of this job, talking about the fact that the Senate has not confirmed Whitaker. Does he have a case?
No, he does not. All interim appointments are not confirmed for the position that they're filling. Even if you had the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, the Senate didn't confirm him to be the Attorney General. They confirmed him to be the Deputy Attorney General. Or what if the president picked somebody from the Environmental Agency who had been confirmed for that, but he wasn't confirmed for this? By definition, an interim appointment has not been confirmed for the job that he's serving. And you have to give a little bit of flexibility to the president to consider who to appoint permanently. Then you have the Senate process of confirmation that could take some time. So interim appointments are an inherent part of our system, and they are being challenged today largely on partisan grounds, not on correct constitutional grounds.
There was a kind of an interesting memo released by the Office of Legal Counsel for the Department of Justice. Obviously, the Department of Justice headed by the Attorney General, and they're essentially justifying the fact that Matthew Whitaker is now the head of that office, saying it is no doubt true that presidents often choose acting principal officers from among Senate-confirmed officers, but the Constitution does not mandate that choice. Basically echoing what you just said. The Constitution doesn't require that the Senate confirm this person for an interim position.
And also, the Office of Legal Counsel is very independent. They make their own judgments. They're highly respected. And generally, the president and the Attorney General follow the advice of the Office of Legal Counsel. I think in this case, the advice of the Office of Legal Counsel is absolutely sound. And I think if you go back in history, you'll find that Democrat presidents have done this, Republican presidents have done this, and that we live in a hyper-partisan environment where everything anybody does is called unconstitutional. And that, I think, trivializes the Constitution and reduces its value. And I think it's a mistake to challenge everything on constitutional grounds. The president may be wrong in his appointment, but being wrong doesn't make it unconstitutional.
Interesting points. Alan Dershowitz, Harvard Professor Emeritus of Law. Thank you.
Well, you may remember they made headlines for doing a good deed. A couple raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to help a homeless man. Turns out they may have made it all up.
Pelosi all but daring potential rivals to step forward, saying, come on in, the water is warm. Now some Democrats are in the pool with 17 signatures on a letter opposing her leadership. Whether Pelosi can reclaim the gavel and who might be the alternative.
And plus, Trump critic Senator Jeff Flake vowing not to vote for the president's judicial nominees until the Senate acts on a bill to protect special counsel Mueller. Whether the threat will give him leverage and if he will follow through.
Well, there is always that, right? Yeah. All that plus our hashtag one lucky guy outnumbered at the top of the hour.
Thank you, ladies. We'll be watching. Meanwhile, this New Jersey couple could be in big trouble after they raised $400,000 on a GoFundMe page claiming it was for a homeless man. But now we're learning the whole story may have been a hoax. Jackie Heinrich joins us in the studio for this. Jackie?
Well, according to the complaint the local Philadelphia NBC affiliate obtained, the couple conspired with that homeless man so that all three could defraud donors and make a profit. It's all stemming from a viral Good Samaritan tale that prompted more than $400,000 in donations to a GoFundMe campaign. Last fall, Kate McClure and her boyfriend, Mark D'Amico, shared the story of Johnny Bobbitt Jr., a homeless Marine veteran who gave his last dollar to Kate when she was stranded on a Philadelphia freeway out of gas. Bobbitt's generosity drew donations from more than 14,000 people. That money was supposed to put a roof over Bobbitt's head, but the relationship turned sour when Bobbitt sued the couple, saying they stole more than half the pot, only giving Bobbitt about $75,000. Initially, the couple's lawyer denied the claim, saying they were holding on to the cash for Bobbitt to ensure he didn't spend it on drugs. But in September, police raided the couple's home and towed away a new BMW from their garage. Prosecutors launched a criminal probe.
I'm not surprised that it happened. I wanted to avoid this. That's why, I basically begged them for months to let's try to work out something.
Now a new twist with a criminal complaint alleging that all three of them were in it together from the get-go. Police holding a press conference in New Jersey at 2 o'clock today. A lawyer for McClure and D'Amico declining to comment this morning, Sandra.
Jackie Heinrich will continue to follow that one. Thank you.
Thanks.
President Trump and the First Lady departing the White House moments ago. They're headed for the Marine Barracks. Not far away. We will take you there live once the event gets underway.